We're standing at Jerusalem's Damascus Gate, the grandest of the city's Ottoman gates. It's about 500 years old, which here in Jerusalem is actually pretty new. Directly beneath it lie much more ancient entrances from the time of the Roman Empire. You can see one of them here, a gate beneath a gate, from a period in the city's history that has never been well understood, an interval in which Jerusalem wasn't even called Jerusalem. The current gate, which faces north toward Damascus, hence the name, is part of the city wall built by the Turks. The Grand Roman Gate, however, wasn't part of a wall. There was no wall. In the 2nd century CE, when Rome was an undisputed superpower, why would a Roman city need one? There weren't many enemies foolish enough to attack. In our previous episode, we talked about how a Roman military camp populated by soldiers who had subdued a bloody Jewish revolt in the year 70 CE gradually evolved into a civilian town. A half-century later, residents decided that it was time for their settlement to become a proper Roman colony. A visit by the Emperor Hadrian in the year 130 CE marked the official transformation. Coins were minted, showing Hadrian with a plow, drawing a sacred boundary line, the Roman ritual marking the founding of a new city. The colony was given a new name, Aelia Capitolina. Aelia was a reference to the emperor's full name, Publius Aelius Hadrianus. Capitolina honored the Roman gods known as the Capitoline Triad, Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. Until recently, we didn't know much about the city's incarnation as Aelia Capitolina, which lasted about 2 centuries. That's because this archaeological layer is sandwiched between 2 more significant layers of construction, the earlier Jerusalem of the Temple period and the later city of the Byzantine period, which became a magnet for pilgrims drawn by the stories and scriptures of the new Christian faith. The years of Aelia Capitolina were an interim period, one that always remained a bit mysterious. Thanks to recent excavations, particularly digs by the Western Wall and at the slope known as the City of David, we've begun drawing entirely new conclusions about the Roman city. Today, we know the layout of its street grid and how it developed. We've even discovered a few public buildings that no one knew existed. One of the most remarkable is a small, theater-like complex discovered beneath houses in what is now the Muslim Quarter. This little theater backs directly onto the western wall of the Temple Mount, not the visible portion, but the part now buried beneath structures built by Muslim rulers in medieval times. It's these excavations which have given us the fairly precise date we now have for Hadrian's visit and the founding of Aelia Capitolina. In front of the western wall, archaeologists uncovered a splendid Roman street, the Cardo, the name given to the street running from north to south in any planned Roman city. This street would take you from Damascus Gate in the north down to the lower city in the south. Beneath the paving stones, archaeologists found debris dating to around 130 CE, and several new inscriptions uncovered elsewhere in the city also relate to Hadrian's visit that year. Remarkably, this very same street can be seen clearly on the only surviving map we have of ancient Jerusalem, the Madaba Map, created in the 6th century CE. The map was discovered in Jordan during the construction of a Greek Orthodox church 150 years ago. It turned out that the new church was built on the site of an ancient one, and the map was part of its mosaic floor. The map once depicted the entire Holy Land, but unfortunately, much of it is missing. We're lucky that the part showing Jerusalem is intact. We can see what is now Damascus Gate, the plaza in front of it, and a pillar of some kind. There hasn't been a pillar here for many, many centuries, but people in this city have very long memories, and in Arabic, to this day, Damascus Gate is called Bab al-Amud, Gate of the Pillar. Local memory has preserved the knowledge that a column once stood there. Ancient sources tell us that the pillar supported a statue of none other than Emperor Hadrian, regarded as the city's founding father. Later, after the rise of Christianity, his statue was replaced with one of Jesus. On the map, we see the Cardo running from north to south, and then, uniquely for a Roman city, we see a second Cardo, slightly crooked, starting in the same place, the Roman Plaza at Damascus Gate, but veering left to pass in front of the western wall. The city's other main street, running from east to west and known as the Decumanus, is oddly missing from the map. but it existed in reality, and the cross formed by those main Roman thoroughfares, the Cardo and the Decumanus, have left a mark that remains to the present. It's their imprint that gives us the rough division of the old city into 4 quarters: Jewish, Armenian, Christian, and Muslim. Though today the streets themselves are visible only thanks to excavations, the grid drawn by Roman city planners has incredibly endured. We're now very close to the intersection of these main streets. This was the Roman Forum, a paved expanse that was the hub of public life in Aelia Capitolina, full of tradesmen, shoppers, ruffians, and soldiers. But today you can't tell. Centuries of later construction filled the Forum, and now it's a warren of narrow alleys. The year 324 CE wasn't really a pivotal year for people here, and for ordinary residents, not much changed. The real turning point came 4 decades later, in 363 CE, when an earthquake devastated the city. Archaeological layers show clear evidence of the quake. The layer that follows is distinctly different. Now it's what we would call Byzantine and overtly Christian. If you're looking for Aelia Capitolina, even if you're not an archaeologist, you can find it in a handful of tantalizing traces that became embedded in later architecture, like insects in amber. This arch, for example, subsumed into a later building, which you could probably walk under without glancing up. It may seem unremarkable, but it happens to be one of the most famous in the Christian world. In Christian tradition, it's known as Ecce Homo, or Behold the Man. It's said to be the setting for the scene in Christian scripture where Pontius Pilate presents Jesus to the crowd and declares, "Behold the man." In fact, this arch wasn't around at the time. It was built about a century later by the Roman residents of Aelia Capitolina. Over the centuries and millennia, the arch has survived to watch empires rise and fall and new religions born, to see the city go back to its older name, Jerusalem, remaining for perceptive passers-by as a messenger from the Romans who once lived here and who never quite disappeared.